You are Locked On Braves POSTCAST, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta, your team every day.
Hello and welcome into the Braves POSTCAST, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Grant McAuley, Jake Mastroianni with you after what was a little bit longer night than maybe they expected, but in the end, they got the outcome they wanted. The Atlanta Braves with a 4-3 victory in 10 innings over the Miami Marlins. They sweep away that club from South Florida, and the Braves' very good homestand continues, and their record continues to be more than very good. It is now the best in Major League Baseball. A lot to talk about this 4-3 win and a showdown with one of the other best teams in baseball coming in this weekend. The Cleveland Guardians are next up on the 9-game homestand for the Atlanta Braves, and we're going to get to all of that on this edition of the Braves POSTCAST. Before we get started, I want to remind you to hit that thumbs up and subscribe to Locked On Sports Atlanta here on YouTube. Go on over and subscribe to Locked On Braves wherever you get your podcast. And today's episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. Get in on the basketball playoff action and win up to 100 times your money. Download the Prize Picks app today. Use the code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match of up to $100. That is LOCKEDONMLB, the code, after you download that Prize Picks app. Jake, the Braves, I don't know that they need an app to win or to incentivize themselves here. They just seem to find a way to do that here on this homestand, and a start to a season that, despite some of the injuries they've had to deal with, some of the inconsistency for some of their biggest names, continues to just come up the way that they want it to, by and large.
It's crazy. You think about it. If you would have said they lost Spencer Strider, they lost Sean Murphy on opening day, they've lost Ozzy Albies for 10 days. Ronald Acuña Jr. has one home run. Matt Olson's hitting under 220. Austin Riley hasn't really gotten going, and yet they got the best record in baseball. It's really just amazing when you think about it. And yeah, finding a way to get a win on Wednesday. Look, they won too easy the first two games. Had to make it a little bit difficult in the finale there.
Yeah, they did raise the degree of difficulty there in the ninth inning. We're going to talk a little bit about that here in just a moment, as things did get crazy late. The Braves, though, they made some big plays. I know that there was one they didn't make in the ninth inning that kind of opened the door up. I thought it was a pretty tough one for Matt Olson, a play I'm sure he would tell you he needs to make, but it ultimately helped the Marlins score a couple of runs against Raisel Iglesias. But in the midst of all of that, Iglesias making a nice play, Orlando Arcia showing off his arm again, and then in the 10th, Austin Riley, he just continues to show reasons why he has become one of the best third basemen in baseball. That was all happening on the glove work side. On the offensive side, a big night from Michael Harris, among others, was a big reason why the Braves won this game.
Yeah, it was. And Ozuna as well. Just, again, every night we talk about him. But I'm glad you talked about the defense, because really in this series, and I know the defense is kind of what opened the game up and continued it, but like you said, a really tough play there for Matt Olson. The ball had a lot of top spin on it, kind of took a big hop, and then it took another hop and just kind of took off. And it's probably a situation there, again, if Matt could redo it, maybe stay back on a little bit, try to get the one out with bases loaded. Maybe in his mind, he was thinking if he could charge it, get it, step on the bag, go home, maybe something else. Either way, it was a tough hop that on him, and it was going to be a tough play to make there. But the defense overall this season, outside of that play and maybe that last game against the Mets, has just been tremendous. And especially on that left side of the infield, where Orlando Arcia just continues to make several plays each night that are really good. So you can say the same for Riley and what he's doing over there. I mean, the play that he made in the 10th inning to catch that ball on a knee, spin, throw it home, and the runner was out by 10 feet. I mean, he got it there in time for d'Arnaud to just sit there and wait on the runner to come into him. I mean, the defense has been really, really good. And Olson, outside of the play tonight, I think he's been much better this year as well. So glad you give a little shout out there to the defense, because I think they've been outstanding this season.
Yeah, I mean, some nights we're talking about, what's going on with a starter. Some nights it's what the bullpen has done. Obviously, the Braves offense can be the star a lot of times, but the defense, oftentimes I feel like it kind of is in the background of everything. You love it when it goes right and it's all good. And when it goes wrong, that's when you seem like you hear about it a little bit more. But yeah, I did think it was a tough play for Matt, and one of those where I don't want to skip ahead too far on my rundown and in the plot here, but Matt Olson broke a hitless streak on what was called a double. Maybe it was even in that whole thing out, because there were some very, very weird calls and scoring decisions that went on in this game, both downstairs and upstairs. But ultimately, it all added up to a 4-3 win for the Braves, and we'll just parse through all this here as we go along. The walk-off hit belonged to Michael Harris II, who brought in Ronald Acuña Jr. with the game-winning run in the 10th inning. A 3-hit night for Harris. I mean, he just continues to hit this year. I know there's been a lot of different stories that we've talked about with this Braves club, and a lot of different hitters who have, maybe not necessarily lived up to their billing. Michael Harris II, though, has been everything he's been advertised to be and then some, and I still think there's a power surge to come.
Yeah, I said it last night. It's the quietest. I think it was either 312 or 315 batting average in all of baseball. And now it's up to 330. I mean, what he is doing this year is just truly incredible. We know the batting average for him. I mean, he's hit over 290 his first 2 years in the big leagues. You know that's going to be there. And the hit he had, the walk-off hit, taking it the other way, a tough lefty, obviously, that he's gotten to before, had a big hit against Tanner Scott in Miami last year, a very memorable one. But again, just to be able to sit in there and drive that pitch the other way into the gap, a really good swing there. He had 2 hard hit balls tonight, one of them not being that walk-off hit that was just under being recorded as a hard hit ball at 94.2. You move him up into that 2 spot, getting on base. Other guys up there really not themselves right now, and Acuña and Riley and Olsen, but you put Harris up there in a 3-hit night, really kind of gets going. Did have the caught stealing in there, but again, he's just been tremendous. I know me and you were both on the bandwagon of being a breakout year for Michael Harris, who's already won Rookie of the Year and had 2 really good seasons. But I think a lot of us believe there's more in the tank still for MH2.
Yeah, there's more boxes that he's going to check, whether that be All-Star, whether that be Gold Glover. I don't know. I'm not going to rule a Silver Slugger out of this whole deal. I think he's capable of being a 30-30 type player ultimately, but we'll see. And at the age of 23, it's kind of exciting to be talking about all of this stuff for number 23. We got to talk a little bit about what went on with Reynaldo Lopez in this game, because he just continues to deliver. He has been the Braves' best and most consistent pitcher here in the early going. It was 6 innings of 1-run ball his first time out, then a couple of 6-inning scoreless outings, now 7 innings of 1-run ball. This time he made 1 mistake. It was a solo home run. I'll tell you this, I will live with that every single time. Only the 1 run allowed, and what a run overall, no pun intended, that Reynaldo Lopez has been on. Got those couple of extra days, and maybe the Braves are going to try to do this some throughout the season just to kind of monitor his workload. After the game, Brian Snitker said, yeah, we'll figure that out as we go along over the next 4 months. But yeah, I mean, you can't argue with the results for Reynaldo Lopez, and considering everything else that's gone on with the Braves rotation, struggles of Fried, loss of Strider, this has been a very nice development for Atlanta.
Yeah, whether or not you think it can continue, results are king, and he is getting the results right now. I mean, another outing of giving up 1 earned or less in his first 4 outings. He's done that every time out. It's just truly an incredible start for Reynaldo Lopez. Only 82 pitches, and it sounds like with Snitker's comments after the game that there was a little bit of decision to send him back out there, but how could you not with where his pitch count was? You almost had to, just how efficient he was. We talked about in this series how aggressive these Marlins hitters were in attacking, and it seemed like Lopez kind of took advantage of that. Majority of his pitches that he threw were outside of the strike zone, but he was taking advantage of the aggressiveness of those Marlins hitters. Gave up 10 hard hit balls, so gave up a lot of hard contact, but a lot of ground balls, which we also saw from the Marlins in this series. Elder and Fried as well, getting a ton of ground balls against this Marlins team. So just pitching to what they were giving him, I thought. Good game plan there by he and Chadwick Tromp behind the plate. 44 seamers, 36 sliders. He got plenty of whiffs, 18 swinging strikes. That's a great number. 13 of those coming against that slider, 21 swings. So that's a 62% whiff rate on his slider, which has been just an outstanding pitch for him all year long. So again, what he's doing in that transition, doing it with 2 pitches, we've seen somebody else in a Braves uniform that's able to get that done. I'm not making too many other comparisons other than that, but we've seen pitchers that if you have 2 pitches like that and you can locate them, you can be successful to trip or 2 through the lineup. And he's been doing it more than that.
Yeah, he definitely has. We'll talk more about Reynaldo Lopez as it goes on. We did bring up all that defense and the late plays that went on, both the tough one that kind of opened the door for the Marlins and some great plays that were made after that in that inning and then in the 10th. But how about Luis Guillorme early in the game, diving up the middle to make a great play that helped kind of snuff out what could have been a little bit more trouble for Reynaldo Lopez. The defense was doing it all in this game, and a big part of what the Braves did in winning this one was making some very good plays. 4-3 victory in 10 innings for Atlanta. We're going to talk a little bit more about how it happened, the offense, Matt Olson finally getting back in the hit column, and much more as we continue on the Braves Postcast. The smash hit mobile game Monopoly Go lets you compete with your friends to get the most riches and the biggest empire. It's the Monopoly you love, but on your phone anytime with tons of new twists, including leaderboards to compare your progress with your buddies and so much else to do. Play on countless dynamic Monopoly boards, make your friends bankrupt by smashing their landmarks with a wrecking ball, charge other players rent for your iconic properties. It's all in there. You can even work with your friends, if you so choose, to crack open those community chests and in tournaments to get extra rewards and climb that leaderboard. Download Monopoly Go now free in the App Store or Google Play. This episode of the Braves Postcast also brought to you by Prize Picks. Get in on the basketball playoff action and win up to 100 times your money. Download the Prize Picks app today. Use the code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match of up to $100. That's download that Prize Picks app and use that code LOCKEDONMLB. Braves beat the Marlins 4-3 in 10 innings in no small part to a little bit of late heroics for Atlanta's offense, but also some really great pitching from Reynaldo Lopez, who had the Marlins bats, as Jake just talked about, kind of over-aggressive and using it to his advantage in this one. Let's look at the line score and the box score for this game, and then we'll talk more about Lopez. Marlins scored 3 runs, which that's kind of breaking news for them. They had been shut out in each of the first 2 games, finally broke that scoreless streak in the second inning on that home run by Jesus Sanchez, but didn't score again until the 9th inning when an error kind of helped them out with that. 3 runs, 7 hits, no errors for the Marlins. 4 runs, 10 hits, 1 error for the Braves. Miami went just 1 for 13 with runners in scoring position, left 7 men on base. Braves, meanwhile, 4 for 10 with runners in scoring position. They left 8. The winner in this game is A.J. Minter. He is now 4-1, so leading the Braves staff in victories. Congratulations to him, the reliever. And the loss goes to Tanner Scott. He drops to 0-4. Blown save in this game to Raisel Iglesias. Talking about Reynaldo Lopez, he certainly pitched good enough to win. He was in line to win until the 9th inning, went a little bit sideways. But as you look at what the Braves have seen on this homestand, and in particular in this series, Bryce Elder comes back from the minor leagues. He's able to establish himself in the first game. Max Fried gets back on track in a big-time way in a complete game effort, a shutout in Game 2. Now you have Reynaldo Lopez come right back out and continue what has been a great start for him. Jake, you have to feel pretty encouraged, regardless of what offense you're going up against, with what the starting pitchers have done in this series and what they've been doing of late.
It's obviously very big for the bullpen. If it weren't for the extra innings, and still with extra innings, you only had to use 4 relievers. They only had to cover 4 innings, in this game. So, what you were able to do with the starting pitching, which was a bit of a question. You go back to a week and a half ago, and everybody's wondering what's wrong with the Braves starting rotation. How are they going to get things figured out with the loss of Spencer Strider? And then here they are, just every time out, going 6+ innings. I don't know that that's going to happen all year long, but I think it's capable. I think this Charlie Morton's more than capable of going 6 innings. Chris Sale's more than capable of going 6 innings. We know Max Fried is, and what Lopez doing, that's all he's doing is going 6+ innings. So if you can get that from this team, it's just going to make that bullpen even better. I know Iglesias, a little bit of a shaky outing tonight, some bad luck, obviously the play by Olsen, but this bullpen is just so good, and the more you can give them breaks, it's just going to keep them fresher and make them even more effective when you do have to go to them. But obviously the goal of every team is to have your starter going at least 6 innings in a game. And when this offense or when this pitching staff is doing that, obviously it's going to make this Braves team that much better. And the offense in particular, look, I kind of joked about it last night. 3 runs isn't a lot for them, and that's what they've been kind of doing here lately, but the pitching has kind of taken over. While the offense has picked up the slack earlier in the season, now it's the pitching that's really getting it done and holding up 3 runs, and for at least the majority of the series.
Yeah, and sometimes that's all you're going to get, and you're going to have to find different ways to win and make that stand up, and I do think this pitching staff is good enough to make that happen. We talked a lot about Reynaldo Lopez and some about what happened in the 9th inning and maybe what didn't happen on in the field for Raisel Iglesias. But one thing I've kind of noted with Raisel, and maybe this is just kind of how I'm looking at it, I'd be interested to get your thoughts on it. This guy throws a lot of strikes, and I think sometimes hitters may know, hey, Raisel's going to come into the strike zone. He's going to put something over the plate. I'm going to get something to hit. And I think that might have led to the early trouble he got into, and then it just kind of got compounded by the error. But again, hats off to the defense for getting out of that ultimately with the game still tied and giving the Braves a chance to walk it off in the 10th inning. But I've kind of felt like that's maybe the thing with Raisel Iglesias. It's typically not coming in and walking the ballpark or something and being completely off kilter. sometimes he's just in the strike zone so much, I think it helps the hitters a little bit.
Yeah, you could say that, but it's quality pitches in the strike zone. He doesn't miss over the plate too much, and there's just so much movement on his pitches, that you can do that. He's just, got the slider, the changeup, that sinker is just all darting and moving in very different ways. And I like how he got out of it tonight with the fastball up. I mean, when he needs to, he can go back 96.1 on that big strikeout to get out of that jam. So a lot of credit to him. And the hits he did give up tonight, they were hit decently hard, but they also were just kind of finding holes in the infield. So, obviously, Iglesias, like you said, he's not that typical. He's not a Mason Miller. He's not a guy that's going to come in and typically just blow it by you. Although I just mentioned he did it tonight, but he is more of a guy that's going to use that movement to his advantage. He's going to typically get that weak contact and not walk batters, which is what you want, I think, first and foremost from a reliever coming in. You do not want to give up free passes. And that's what I love so much about Raisel Iglesias.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to beat me, beat me by getting hits and earning your way on base. Don't give them a bunch of free passes and allow them to kind of back their way into a couple of runs that they otherwise may not have gotten. So just one of those little things that I noticed about, sometimes when there is a blown save, it seems to be that guys just go up there and they start swinging the bats. And sometimes it's going to be more crisp. Other times it's not going to be, but far more times than not, Raisel Iglesias has certainly gotten the job done. Those defensive plays in the inning certainly helped him in the 9th, again in the 10th. Braves, meanwhile, scoring on a balk early in this game to get on the board. Ronald Acuña Jr. walks and promptly steals second base, his 11th of the season, doing so on the bobblehead night that commemorated his 73 stolen bases from a year ago. Very appropriate for Ronald to go ahead and get that out of the way early. Marcell Ozuna, 3 hits, 2 runs knocked in, including one in that first inning as the Braves immediately spotted Reynaldo Lopez with a couple of runs to work with. I don't know what else we can really say about Marcell Ozuna, so maybe we'll just kind of stick a pin in that. But I loved the poetry, the symmetry of Ronald Acuña Jr. immediately stealing a base and scoring a run in the first inning on his stolen base bobblehead night.
Yeah, and again, with Ronald, we look at it, and it's a guy who's hitting 281, close to an 800 OPS. He gets on base twice. He scores 2 runs tonight, obviously the one being the ghost runner in extra innings there to walk it off. Look, he's not quite back to that Ronald of last year. He's not that MVP at the moment. But again, we talk about it. It's just every night he's going to get on base. He's going to do something. That on-base percentage is still one of the best in the league. And it's just, again, it speaks to the level of player that he is to be able to do that. I know you wanted to put a pin in the Ozuna conversation, but 4 hard hit balls tonight, right. 3 hits. I mean, it's every night with him. And again, I'm out of words really to say about him as well, but it's just incredible what he's doing.
Yeah, I just wanted to get to Acuña first because it seems like we kind of devote entire segments to what did Marcell Ozuna do tonight? How impressive is it? What this, how this also just kind of builds off what he did in the last 5 months from a year ago. It has definitely been very impressive. I'm just looking through the leaderboard as far as on-base percentage in Major League Baseball. And yeah, you will find Ronald Acuña Jr. up there over 400 still. So his bad year or off year, I don't know that anybody can really call it a bad year without having their tongue firmly planted in their cheek. But a lot of guys would love to have their best year look a little bit like what Ronald's down year could look like, or a slow start, let's call it that. But he's still doing so much to help the Braves win. He is still scoring a ton of runs. That's what you want your leadoff hitter to do. And Ronald Acuña Jr. has certainly taken care of that for the Braves. And that home run binge, I'm telling you, it's coming. We've been watching him long enough to know it. Only one player in baseball has scored more runs than Ronald Acuña Jr. this year. And I guess they're always going to be linked together, or at least for a little while. That's Mookie Betts. He's got 26. Ronald's got 23 now, tied with Ellie De La Cruz and Ketel Marte for second in all of Major League Baseball in runs scored, is the Braves leadoff man. But Marcell Ozuna, again, it just continues to add to his Major League leading total in RBI. Some guy named Mike Trout passed him in home runs for the Major League lead, but it's pretty crazy when you think about where we were about a year ago to think that we'd be talking about Marcell Ozuna and Mike Trout in the same sentence. That's where we are here in 2024.
Here we are, and it's crazy. Like I said, I'm out of really words to say and things to say, but it's just, again, another night where I look at it and I'm just like, how? I mean, 4 hard hit balls. He shoots one the other way. His only out was on a line out. It's just, he is squaring up everything that you throw him right now. It's incredible. Again, I'm out of adjectives to say about this turnaround for Marcell Ozuna.
Michael Harris also had 3 hits, including that game winner. He also gets the award for weirdest strikeout that I've seen, at least this year, maybe ever. He fouled the ball off. It bounced off the ground, off Christian Bethancourt's foot, caromed up into the air. And as one would do, the opportunist Bethancourt just kind of, said he caught it. And the umpire just went with it. And at that point, Michael Harris was deemed out, even though they met the 4 umpires. I guess nobody saw it. I definitely saw it in live action. I definitely saw it on the replay. And Michael Harris did not seem to be thrilled. But wouldn't you know it, something like that happens, and then something great happened. In the 10th inning, he got to walk it off for his team.
Yeah, I guess in the end, obviously he comes out on top there, but I don't know how all of them missed that. I can maybe understand the umpire a little bit being blocked by the catcher, but I don't know how the rest of those guys missed that. But Harris ultimately getting the last laugh with the walk-off hit there, 3-hit night.
Yeah, you'll certainly take that. 3 hits on any night is typically a good night more times than not, just depending on the context. And game-winning hit, I think the context right there is all you need. When we continue, we will talk a little bit about what's coming up next for the Atlanta Braves as they will be welcoming one of the other best teams in baseball, the Cleveland Guardians, one of the surprise clubs in MLB. They also have 17 wins on the season, and they will be rolling into Truist Park this weekend. We will talk about that as the Braves postcast rolls on. Step up to the plate this Mother's Day. DoorDash has a deal you don't want to miss. Right now, get 50% off your next order, up to $15 when you spend $15 or more on your next flour, convenience, grocery, or retail order. Use the promo code LOCKEDONMLB. Start Mother's Day with flowers or surprise her with gifts from the brands she loves, delivered that very same day with DoorDash. Again, the promo code is LOCKEDONMLB on the DoorDash app. Get 50% off your next order, up to $15 when you spend $15 or more on your next order of flour, convenience, grocery, or retail. That is promo code LOCKEDONMLB on the DoorDash app. Braves complete the sweep of the Miami Marlins. They now own the best record in baseball, just ahead of the Cleveland Guardians, who are rolling into town for a 3-game weekend series. It starts on Friday night. This homestand has been a very good one for the Braves. Safe to say, even though they've already seen the defending World Series champions to start out, this is going to be one of the biggest tests of the Braves' early season as they go head-to-head with the Guardians, of all teams, who have been playing some pretty great baseball and doing so under former Brave Stephen Vogt, the rookie manager of the Guardians, has them playing pretty well.
He does, and we've talked about it on here before. Sometimes it's when you play an opponent, and the Braves have caught some opponents while they've been down, but that's not the case here for the Guardians. I don't know how things will end up for them the rest of the season, but it definitely seems like they're playing their best brand of baseball at the moment. And, they're getting it done with the doubles as well. They're 4th in the league in doubles. They don't strike out a lot. They're a team that hits for average. So it's not a necessarily powerful offense, but it is a good hitting offense. And their pitching staff, 4th best ERA in all of baseball as well. So they're pitching well. They got a staff or a lineup up and down that can hit you for average and has some extra base potential in there, if not necessarily the home run ball. So get it done a little bit differently than maybe the Braves, who are dependent a lot of times on that power, although they've been winning these games here lately without so much of the home run ball. But should be a good matchup there with the Guardians and just the way they get it done.
Yeah, tail of the tape here on these two clubs. The Guardians 17-7 on the season. Of course, the Braves 17-6 after finishing their 3-game sweep of the Miami Marlins. So just percentage points ahead, or half game ahead, as far as best record overall in Major League Baseball. Best run differential in baseball, that belongs to the Cleveland Guardians at plus 47. Right on their heels, the Braves at plus 44. And when you look at what the Guardians have done away from home, they have more than held their own. They are 10-3 away from Cleveland this year. So a lot of good things going on. You mentioned some of the offensive things they do really well. Also, as you pointed out, the pitching is just a well-rounded club. It's not a team that's full of, all of the biggest names and biggest stars. Yeah, they've got a few guys that you've certainly heard of before, but doing all of this without Shane Bieber, as far as their pitching staff is concerned, they've had a big loss in that department, just like the Braves have with Spencer Strider. They've overcome that, off to a good start. A lot of baseball left to be played, but in that division, and I know we've talked about this a lot over the last couple of years, the AL Central, I feel like it's wide open, and every single one of those teams should be saying, hey, why not us? Because I think there could be a nice little way to get into the postseason and make some noise if you get hot at the right time.
Yeah, it is. It's definitely a winnable division, both that and the NL Central, really. And that's why, the Guardians obviously there, they got a chance. Many people thought it'd be the Twins. They're off to a rough start. That's why I like what the Royals did. They went out and got a lot of veterans
Yep.
this offseason. They got a Waka, a Seth Lugo. They brought in a Hunter Renfroe, and they went in and got some veteran players in there. And that right there in the mix with some of the young players that they have. So it's definitely a winnable division. You make a couple of nice moves here or there. You get on a hot streak like the Guardians are now, and you can definitely get on a run, get in the postseason, win a division.
You certainly can, unless you're the Chicago White Sox. I
Yeah.
don't think they're going to win this division. They've been shut out 8 times. They're 3-21. Their chances may have gone out the window when opening day came and went, but be that as it may, even, a down team will win a game they're not supposed to every once in a while because one of their 3 wins came at the expense of the Atlanta Braves. So who am I to throw stones from a glass house? Cleveland, though, at 17-7, 2.5 games ahead of those Kansas City Royals, who are 15-10 this year. They're playing some good baseball. The Tigers over 400 as well in the Central at 14-11. And as you mentioned, the Twins, they've been struggling. They're 3 games under 500 heading into Thursday's action. The Braves, though, will be off, awaiting the Guardians to roll in on Friday to start out that series. Again, with Stephen Vogt at the helm, it's going to be fun to see him. I've actually known him for 15 years, since he was a minor league non-prospect with the Tampa Bay Rays, who played his way to the big leagues, really caught a great break in getting traded to the Oakland Athletics. And then, as fate would have it, those long and winding roads of baseball brought him right to Atlanta in 2021 to enjoy a World Series parade. So a lot of good things for him. And I always thought, from the entirety of knowing him as a player and seeing him, call it a career, he could get into managing if he wanted to. And it happened pretty quick for him. 1 year as a quality control coach in Seattle. And the next thing you know, he's the manager of the Cleveland Guardians.
Yeah, Braves may have a catcher like that as well. Somebody that just everybody seems to love. A really well-respected guy in the clubhouse, a veteran. Obviously, talking about Travis d'Arnaud, but Stephen Vogt kind of seemed like that guy that just everybody really loved to be around, and one of those guys. And obviously, looking like he's going to make a really good manager.
Yeah, he always wanted this opportunity to stay around and be around the game that he loves, and really cool to see people, spend that life in baseball and continue to find those opportunities to give back and stay involved and be in the game. And he most certainly has himself and his team in a really good spot here in the month of April, as we have about 9-10 days left about a week left. I need to look at a calendar before we get started next time, or where is the time going? Maybe that's the more opportune question, but getting to the end of April in a good spot with a club that maybe nobody really expected to do the things it's doing. Sometimes that's just the way it is when some team turns around and, finds its way into a really good position. And if they can keep it up and keep it going throughout the course of the season, it might just be some fun come October. We have certainly seen that around these places before. We could see Ozzy Albies come off the injured list on Friday and rejoin this club. We'll find out. That's when he's eligible to come off the IL. Jake, we've talked about this a lot over the past few days. I don't know that there's anything new to report on this, but the fact that the Braves are talking about Ozzy being back so quick is nothing but a good thing after thinking he might be gone for weeks or a month.
Yeah, I said it last night. I felt like the last hurdle for him was running the bases, and that's what he did on Wednesday. So to me, if you can run on that toe and feel okay, and sounds like reports that he felt fine afterwards, I feel like that's kind of the last thing that would really be holding him back from being ready. So again, you don't have to push it. It's the great place that the Braves are in right now. You don't have to push Sean Murphy to come back. You don't have to push Ozzy Albies to come back. Let them heal up as much as they need to. But it sounds like Ozzy Albies has checked just about every box to be able to come back.
Yeah, and once they clear him, he'll be back in, I'm assuming, in that 2 spot of the order, and the Braves offense will be, back at its full complement of all-star players as well, because they've certainly missed him at the plate. But in the field, I think that, they've been able to handle things between Yorme and David Fletcher. But having Ozzy Albies back and around and plugged into this lineup, I think it's one of the things that makes the Braves go. And I think he's one of the leaders on this club. So the sooner, the better as far as that's concerned. Game 1 of this 3-game set, we'll see left-hander Chris Sale on the mound for the Braves. He's 2-1 with a 4.38 ERA. Logan Allen will get the ball for Cleveland, 3-0, a 5.06 ERA. Battle of lefties, Jake. What are you expecting out of Chris Sale? These 7-inning outings, I think he has certainly looked good, even if the line scores have been a little bit deceptive of late.
They have. The last two games, I thought he's pitched much better than the line says. He's really just had kind of one inning in each of his past two outings where he gave up a crooked number that kind of messed up his line a little bit. So hopefully he can put it all together. Like I said, going up against the Guardians team that can put the ball in play. They don't strike out a ton. But Chris Sale, I've been really impressed with what I've seen from him so far.
Yeah, we'll see if Chris Sale can make his record 3-1 with a victory over the Guardians in game one of this three-game set, 7:20 on Friday at Truist Park, Eastern time, that is, 7:20 p.m. The Braves and Cleveland will get this three-game series going. That brings us to the end of this edition of the Braves Postcast. Make sure you subscribe to Locked On Sports Atlanta here on YouTube. Leave us those likes and comments, share the show with a friend, and subscribe to Locked On Braves wherever you get your podcasts. Once again, the Braves, 4-3 winners in 10 innings, sweep away the Marlins as the homestand of winning continues. We'll be back with you this weekend. For Jake Mastroianni, I'm Grant McAuley. And until next time, so long, everyone.